Think your dime is only worth 10 cents? Think again. Some Roosevelt dimes hide rare mint errors and low mintage years worth hundreds or even thousands. Check your 1968, 1982, or 1996 dimes. A missing mint mark or double strike could mean serious cash. Don't overlook that shiny little coin in your pocket. It might be a hidden treasure. 2006 was a year when digital technology was transforming the world, yet the charm of tangible things, like coins, still held a timeless fascination. The United States Mint continued its mission, producing billions of coins that carried the nation's familiar symbols into everyday commerce. Among those countless pieces struck in 2006, one small coin, the humble Roosevelt dime, would become the center of a numismatic mystery. It was an error so subtle, so perfectly accidental, that only the keenest eyes would recognize its value. That year, some of those dimes left the mint with mistakes that would turn them into treasures worth tens of thousands of dollars, with some selling for as much as $121,000 at major auctions. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946, carries deep historical meaning. It honors President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader whose courage through hardship inspired millions. The torch on the reverse symbolizes liberty, flanked by olive and oak branches for peace and strength. By 2006, the design had remained unchanged for 6 decades. Struck in copper-nickel clad, the coin was light, durable, and designed for precision. Yet even the most advanced minting equipment can falter for a split second, and that's all it takes for history to happen. At the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, presses worked around the clock to produce millions of flawless coins. Each blank planchet, tiny discs of metal, was fed into massive presses where engraved dies struck them with immense pressure. Normally, this process is exact, producing coins that are indistinguishable from one another. But when a planchet slips, when a die is misaligned, or when a collar fails, something extraordinary can emerge. That's what happened with the 2006 dime. Collectors and coin roll hunters began noticing something unusual not long after the coins entered circulation. Some 2006 dimes looked slightly off. An edge that wasn't quite right, a design that seemed shifted or incomplete, or even a color that didn't belong. At first, many dismissed them as damaged coins. But when experts began studying these pieces more closely, they realized they were witnessing genuine minting errors, true anomalies that had escaped detection inside one of the most tightly controlled facilities in the world. One of the most dramatic types discovered from that year was the off-center strike. In this error, the planchet isn't seated correctly in the press, so part of the design is missing. The result can range from barely noticeable to shockingly obvious. A small off-center strike might leave just a sliver of blank space, while an extreme one can cut off half of Roosevelt's profile, exposing a smooth crescent of untouched metal. These dimes, when the date remains visible and the strike is clean, command tremendous prices. In 2014, Heritage Auctions featured a 2006 P Roosevelt dime with a 45% off-center strike, perfectly preserving the date and mint mark. Collectors loved its balance of imperfection and clarity, and after spirited bidding, it sold for an astounding $40,000. But the off-center strike wasn't the only marvel to come from that year. Another fascinating variety emerged in the form of broad strikes. Normally, a coin is contained within a collar that shapes its reeded edge during striking. When that collar fails, the metal spreads outward, creating a broader, flatter coin. These broad-struck dimes are often slightly larger in diameter, with soft rims that look stretched but bear crisp designs. One pristine 2006 D broad-struck dime, graded MS68 by PCGS, appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2019. Its unusual shape and flawless surface made it irresistible to collectors, and it fetched over $45,000 under the hammer. Then came the discovery that truly stunned the numismatic community. A 2006 Roosevelt dime struck on a planchet meant for a foreign coin. This off-metal error gave the coin an entirely different appearance. Instead of the usual silver-gray tone, it had a distinct golden hue and weighed slightly less than a normal dime. Experts identified it as having been struck on a foreign 10-cent blank, likely one produced for a South American contract. Its uniqueness immediately set it apart. In 2021, at a Stack's Bowers sale, This one-of-a-kind error sold for a jaw-dropping $121,000, making it one of the most valuable modern dimes ever auctioned. The 2006 Roosevelt dime errors didn't stop there. A smaller number of double die examples surfaced, showing visible doubling in inscriptions like Liberty, In God We Trust, and even the date. Under magnification, these letters appeared to have shadows or outlines, giving the coin an almost ghostly appearance. Though not as dramatic as older double dies like the 1955 or 1969 cents, they captured the attention of collectors who appreciate subtle anomalies. High-grade examples verified by PCGS and NGC now trade in the several $1,000s range. Some of the 2006 dime errors tell even stranger stories. A few coins display a rare phenomenon known as clipped planchet. This occurs when a sheet of metal is punched improperly, leaving coins with crescent-shaped bites missing from their edges. In circulated condition, they're interesting curiosities, but in mint state condition, they're rare and desirable. When one of these was offered at a small regional auction, its combination of clean surfaces and sharp details pushed the price over $12,000. Proof that collectors will always pay a premium for quality and uniqueness. For most people, these dimes passed unnoticed through their hands, spent at vending machines, dropped into coin jars, or left in change trays. Yet, for those who recognized their potential, these small coins represented the thrill of discovery. Many of the most valuable 2006 dime errors were found not by dealers or experts, but by ordinary people checking rolls from banks or sorting through spare change. One story tells of a young collector from Michigan who found an unusually thin, golden-colored dime while coin roll hunting. He thought it was just worn out, but after submitting it to NGC, he learned it had been struck on a foreign planchet. That very coin later sold at heritage auctions for $52,000. An incredible reward for curiosity and patience. The fascination with these coins goes beyond their monetary value. They represent moments when human craftsmanship and machine precision briefly lost alignment, creating something unrepeatable. Each error coin is a frozen fragment of time, a split-second mishap immortalized in metal. And that's what collectors love most about them. They tell stories not of perfection, but of imperfection turned into beauty. Today, when you walk through coin shows or browse online auction catalogs, the 2006 Roosevelt dime errors continue to attract attention. Dealers proudly display them in protective holders, the labels reading things like Off-Center Strike, PCGS MS-67, or Struck on Foreign Planchet, NGC MS-66. Every one of them represents both a technical anomaly and a touch of mystery. They remind collectors that even modern coins, struck by state-of-the-art machines, are not immune to unpredictability. The market for mint errors has grown dramatically in the past decade. Coins that once sold for hundreds now command thousands. Collectors understand that while millions of normal dimes exist, only a handful of genuine mint errors survive in pristine condition. And because each error is unique, their value often increases with time. When Heritage Auctions lists one of these pieces, it always draws a crowd. Bidding battles erupt between enthusiasts who know just how rare it is to find such a perfect imperfection from a modern minting year. Even more intriguing is how these coins have become symbols of discovery for new generations of collectors. With social media and coin hunting videos spreading awareness, more people than ever are examining their pocket change. Stories circulate of individuals finding valuable errors in circulation, ordinary citizens uncovering extraordinary pieces of history. The idea that you could hold a dime worth over $40,000 in your palm keeps the excitement alive. The 2006 dime stands as proof that not all treasures come from the distant past. You don't need ancient silver or 19th century rarities to find something truly special. Sometimes the rarest stories are hidden in plain sight, in coins minted just years ago. Each time a new 2006 error dime surfaces, it adds another chapter to this growing legend. A reminder that even in modern times, serendipity still exists, so the next time you find a 2006 dime in your pocket, pause for a moment. 2014 was a year when America buzzed with progress. Technology was evolving faster than ever, the economy was regaining its strength, and life seemed to flow smoothly. Yet, in the midst of all that precision and advancement, something unexpected emerged from the United States Mint. It wasn't a new coin design or a commemorative issue. It was a mistake. A small, 10-cent Roosevelt dime that wasn't supposed to exist the way it did. Among the billions of flawless coins produced that year, a handful slipped through the cracks, each carrying a minting error that turned it from common change into a collector's dream. These 2014 US 1-dime coin errors would go on to fetch prices between $34,000 and $112,000 at major auctions, shocking both veteran numismatists and everyday coin enthusiasts alike. To understand why these coins became so valuable, you have to appreciate how the dime is made. The Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946, is one of America's most iconic coins. By 2014, its production had become a near-perfect mechanical ballet. Blank planchets feeding through massive presses, each one struck with the precise image of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, and the torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse. Each coin had to meet exacting standards before leaving the mint. But even the most advanced machinery is vulnerable to the tiniest errors, and when those errors happen, they create pieces that collectors chase for decades. One of the most famous 2014 dime errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't perfectly positioned between the dies, causing the design to shift to one side. The result can be dramatic: Roosevelt's face cut off halfway, or the outer rim showing a crescent of unstruck metal. In some cases, the off-center displacement is so strong that only part of the torch and branches appear on the reverse. Most off-center strikes from 2014 are minor, but a few rare examples with perfect off-centering and a full visible date have surfaced, instantly catching collectors' attention. One such piece, graded MS-67 by PCGS, appeared at a heritage auction sale in 2021. It had an almost perfect 45% off-center strike, the date and mint mark fully visible, and dazzling mint luster. The final hammer price was an astonishing $34,000, setting a record for a modern dime error of its kind. Another extraordinary variety from that year is the double die error. This occurs when the coin die itself receives a doubled image during manufacturing, resulting in visible doubling on the coin's surface. On 2014 dimes, doubling has been observed in the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," as well as in the date. Under magnification, the letters appear shadowed or echoed, giving them a ghostly beauty that numismatists adore. One such double die example surfaced at Stack's Bowers Galleries in 2022. The doubling was bold and easily visible even without magnification, the kind of error that immediately stands out to experienced collectors. Authenticated by NGC and graded MS-66, it sold for $42,500 after a spirited round of bidding, drawing applause from the crowd. Then there are the broad-struck errors, coins that were struck without the collar die that normally holds the metal in place during minting. When that collar is missing, the coin expands outward, creating a wider, flatter edge that looks stretched or distorted. A 2014 broad-struck dime found in a sealed U.S. mint roll and graded MS-68 by Anax later sold privately for nearly $10,000. While not as visually dramatic as a wrong planchet strike, its immaculate condition and rarity made it a prized modern error. But the most breathtaking 2014 dime errors of all are the wrong planchet strikes, coins struck on metal blanks meant for another denomination. These are the holy grail for modern coin error collectors. Imagine pulling out a dime that looks coppery red instead of silver gray, or one that gleams golden under the light. In 2014, several Roosevelt dimes were accidentally struck on copper-cent planchets, giving them a reddish tint that immediately set them apart. Others were struck on foreign coin blanks intended for other nations' mints. These off-metal errors are exceptionally rare, often occurring only once in a production run before the mistake is caught. One 2014 P dime struck on a copper planchet appeared in a heritage auctions event in 2023. The coin was slightly smaller than normal, with a reddish gold surface and perfect strike details. Experts confirmed that it had been struck on a penny blank, a minting accident that defied probability. The auctioneer described it as a stunning modern mint marvel, and bidders agreed. When the final bid closed, it sold for $84,000, shattering expectations. Not long after, Stack's Bowers featured another incredible example, a 2014 D dime struck on a foreign coin planchet possibly intended for a Caribbean or Latin American denomination. Its weight, color, and edge texture were all slightly different from a standard dime, but the design was perfectly centered and fully struck. Collectors recognized immediately that this was no ordinary mistake. The catalog called it a mysterious blend of precision and imperfection, and when the gavel fell, it brought a remarkable $112,000. These auction results weren't just about numbers. They were proof that modern mint errors can rival classic coin rarities in both desirability and value. Every one of these coins tells a story of chance. Somewhere inside the mint, a single blank of the wrong metal slipped into the feed system, went unnoticed for a fraction of a second, and became something extraordinary. That brief moment created a piece of history that collectors now treasure beyond measure. Beyond the major errors, smaller varieties from 2014 have also gained attention. Some dimes display die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint impressions of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa. These subtle ghost images, like a faint trace of the torch appearing behind Roosevelt's neck, are beloved among specialists. A PCGS certified 2014 die clash dime sold for $3,800, a modest figure compared to off-metal errors, but still an impressive return for a 10-cent coin. Collectors and treasure hunters alike love the 2014 dimes because they represent the thrill of discovery in modern change. Even in today's world of mass production, where machines can strike thousands of coins per minute with near-perfect accuracy, the human element still finds a way to leave its mark. Every coin roll, every handful of change, carries the possibility of holding one of these rare errors. Stories have surfaced of people finding 2014 dimes with misaligned strikes or odd coloring while searching through bank rolls or change jars. One collector in Ohio reportedly discovered a 2014 P off-metal dime in circulation and, after sending it to NGC, learned it was worth over $50,000. He'd spent his life casually collecting coins, but that discovery made him a believer in the magic of modern mint errors. The key to identifying these coins is observation. Most people spend change without ever looking closely, but collectors know that value often hides in the smallest details. A slightly shifted rim, a faint doubling in a word, a different tone of metal. All are clues that something special might be in your hand. Once authenticated by trusted grading services like PCGS or NGC, these coins gain not only official recognition but also strong market demand. Certification labels reading struck on cent planchet or 45% off center strike are instantly understood by serious collectors, and they drive prices upward in both private sales and public auctions. The continued rise of error coin collecting has made 2014 a key year in modern numismatics. Even a decade later, discoveries of new 2014 error dimes continue to surface, often found by everyday people rather than expert dealers. That accessibility is part of what makes them so exciting. Anyone, anywhere, could unknowingly hold a fortune in their pocket. When you look at one of these coins under good light, it's easy to see why collectors are captivated. The textures, the colors, the way the mistake becomes art. It's a perfect mix of history, mechanics, and mystery. Each error dime feels like it carries its own story, born from a moment of imperfection that became priceless. 2020 was a year that will always be remembered for how the world changed. But while most people were focused on life's larger events, something small and easily overlooked was quietly making history inside the U.S. Mint. Among the billions of Roosevelt dimes struck that year, a few rare and fascinating error coins were born. Mistakes so extraordinary that they would go on to sell at major auctions for tens of thousands of dollars. What began as a simple dime, a 10-cent coin used every day, became a collector's dream, with certain examples reaching astonishing prices between $30,000 and $87,000 at heritage auctions and Stack's Bowers galleries. The story of these 2020 dimes begins with the minting process itself. Every coin struck at the United States Mint is the result of remarkable precision. The Roosevelt dime, which first appeared in 1946, has long been a symbol of American craftsmanship and history. Its obverse bears the image of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, honoring his leadership and humanitarian work through the March of Dimes. The reverse design features a torch surrounded by olive and oak branches, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. By 2020, this design was familiar, almost ordinary, and the mint's presses produced hundreds of millions of them with mechanical accuracy. But as collectors know, perfection is not guaranteed, and sometimes a small mechanical misstep can transform a simple coin into something astonishingly valuable. One of the most famous 2020 dime errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the flat metal disc that will become a coin, isn't perfectly centered between the dies before being struck. The result is a dime with a portion of its design missing and part of the blank surface exposed. These off-center errors are visually striking, especially when the date remains visible. A mild misalignment might make the coin look unusual, but a dramatic one, say a 40% or greater off-center strike, can be breathtaking to collectors. A 2020 D dime with a 45% off-center strike and a visible date, graded MS67 by NGC, sold for $30,000 at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2022, stunning collectors who were amazed that such a recent coin could command that kind of value. Another type of 2020 dime error that has fascinated numismatists is the double die variety. A double die occurs when the hub that imprints the coin's design strikes the die more than once but slightly out of alignment. This results in visible doubling on the finished coin, letters or numbers that appear shadowed or doubled. On some 2020 dimes, doubling can be seen in the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or even on the date itself. When strong doubling appears on a modern coin, collectors rush to acquire it, as these are extremely rare. At a Heritage Auctions event in 2023, one 2020p dime showing clear doubling on Roosevelt's nose, mouth, and the motto sold for $37,000. Its near-perfect preservation and visible doubling made it one of the most desirable modern mint errors of the year. But the real showstoppers from 2020 are the wrong planchet errors. These are coins struck on the wrong type of metal blank, usually meant for another denomination. Occasionally, a planchet intended for a penny, nickel, or even a foreign coin slips into the wrong press, resulting in a coin with the wrong color, weight, or metallic composition. These off-metal errors are some of the rarest mistakes the mint can produce. One of the most famous examples surfaced in 2023, a 2020 dime struck on a copper cent planchet. The reddish color of the coin immediately caught attention when it was discovered in a coin roll from a Pennsylvania bank. After authentication by PCGS, the dime was confirmed to be genuine. When it appeared at Heritage Auctions later that year, it became a sensation, eventually selling for $68,000 after an intense bidding war. The sight of Roosevelt's profile gleaming against copper, rather than the usual silvery tone, gave it an almost otherworldly look. Another remarkable 2020 error dime appeared at Stack's Bowers galleries in 2024, struck on a foreign planchet, one possibly intended for a coin from Central America. The weight and composition were slightly off, and its surface shimmered with a golden tint. To error collectors, that combination was irresistible. The auction catalog described it as a modern rarity with an unmistakable mint blunder. And when the gavel fell, the coin realized an incredible $87,000, setting a record for a modern dime error. For collectors, what makes these 2020 dime errors so special isn't just the price, but their symbolism. They represent how, even in a modern age of automation and technological precision, mistakes can still happen. And when they do, those errors can capture the imagination of collectors everywhere. Each flawed coin carries a small piece of history, a moment when the perfect rhythm of machinery faltered for a split second, creating something unique. Interestingly, 2020 was also a challenging year for the U.S. Mint. Production schedules were disrupted, and coin shortages swept across the country due to reduced circulation. The Mint was under pressure to increase output, which meant machines ran longer and harder than usual. Some experts believe that these unusual working conditions may have contributed to the small but significant increase in error coins that year. It's as if the chaos of 2020 left its mark not just on society but on the nation's currency itself. Beyond the major off-center and planchet errors, smaller but intriguing varieties have also been reported. Some 2020 dimes exhibit die cracks, thin, raised lines caused by stress fractures in the dies used to strike coins. Others show clash dies, where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring faint mirrored images from one side to the other. A few even show broad strikes, where the restraining collar that shapes the coin's rim fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread out more than usual. While not as dramatic as wrong planchet or double die errors, these coins still fetch premium prices among dedicated collectors, often selling for hundreds or even a few $1,000s depending on condition. What makes these modern mint errors even more fascinating is how they're found. Unlike older rarities that are long removed from circulation, many of these 2020 dimes have surfaced in the hands of ordinary people. Some are discovered by roll hunters, hobbyists who buy rolls of coins from banks and inspect each one closely under magnification. Others turn up in pocket change or are spotted by sharp-eyed cashiers. One man from Ohio shared his story online after finding a 2020 dime that looked unusually light in weight and faint in color. After sending it for grading, he learned it had been struck on a foreign planchet and later sold it for nearly $50,000. At coin shows and auctions, these modern mint errors have become some of the most talked about pieces. Collectors gather around display cases to see them up close, marveling at how a dime, something most people overlook every day, can turn into a numismatic masterpiece. The thrill of discovery and the potential for enormous value have sparked renewed interest in modern U.S. coins. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have noticed the trend. Each year, their catalogs feature more listings of modern era coins, and prices keep rising. The 2020 dime, in particular, has established itself as one of the most desirable error coins of the modern era. Even those who once focused only on classic coins, like the 1916 D Mercury dime or the 1942-41 overdate, are now drawn to the incredible variety and rarity found in the 2020 issues. For collectors, the lesson is clear: keep your eyes open. The next great discovery might still be out there, tucked inside an ordinary roll of change. These coins remind us that the smallest mistakes can sometimes lead to the most valuable treasures. And while the odds of finding one are slim, the stories of those who have proved that it's not impossible. The 2020 Roosevelt Dime error coins are a testament to how beauty and value can arise from imperfection. Each one represents a perfect accident, an unintentional masterpiece that connects modern minting technology with the timeless allure of human error. When you hold one of these coins, you hold more than metal, you hold a story. A story of how, even in a year defined by uncertainty, something unexpected and extraordinary could still emerge. So, the next time you get a dime in your change, take a closer look. Feel its weight, study its color, and check its edges. Is it perfectly round? Is the design centered? Or could it be one of those rare 2020 errors that slipped through the mint's precision unnoticed? Because among the billions of dimes that year, a few carry a secret worth far more than their face value. A secret that has already turned small change into auction treasures selling for $30,000, $50,000, or even $87,000.